instant reaction is, oh, how quickly they forget, right? How quickly they forget. As the Pope would say, no Clark, no spark. Caitlin Clark is now 2 years removed from women's college basketball. Out of sight, out of mind, women's college basketball now is. Never existed for the casual fan. We are back to those levels of not caring about women's college basketball. Folks, I didn't care about women's college basketball until I heard of Caitlin Clark. Guilty as charged. And I didn't care. ESPN didn't care. Fox Sports didn't care. Independent media didn't care. Random podcasters didn't care. They just didn't care.
That was Cori Close, the head coach of UCLA women's basketball, and she finally said what everyone else keeps dodging. After coaching the only ranked women's matchup of the entire day, just one media member showed up to ask questions. One person. And instead of brushing it off, Close put the spotlight directly on the sports media for quietly walking away from women's college basketball. Caitlin Clark leaving for the WNBA forced an uncomfortable truth into the open. 2 years ago, when Clark was launching logo threes at Iowa, ESPN could not stop talking about the women's game. Studio shows broke down her shooting form, daily segments hyped every matchup, and coverage ran non-stop like it was appointment television. Now fast forward to January 2025. Cori Close is standing in a nearly empty media room, staring at rows of unused chairs, trying to figure out where all that attention disappeared to. The answer is obvious, even if nobody wants to say it out loud. She is not wrong. Before Caitlin Clark's junior year at Iowa, most casual sports fans barely knew women's college basketball was happening. Ratings were low, coverage was rare, and the audience was mostly die-hard fans and people with personal connections to the teams. Then Clark arrived, started shattering scoring records, and suddenly everyone acted like they had been locked in the whole time.
College football playoff. There's hockey, and there's what's that other league? Oh yeah, the NFL is taking, there's some other things that media would rather do. They saw Caitlin Clark, they saw the hype, they saw the attention, they jumped on board. You guys really bought into the fact that they cared about you. What did they say in Temptation? Nobody care about you, Otis! They're here for me!
Look at the timeline closely. During Clark's senior season in 2024, Iowa games averaged more than 2 million viewers. ESPN dedicated full segments to breaking down her shot selection. Fox Sports ran daily features. Independent podcasters who had never touched the sport before suddenly spoke like longtime insiders. The national championship game pulled in 18.7 million viewers, making it the most watched basketball game, men's or women's, in 5 years. Now UCLA plays a ranked opponent and only one reporter shows up, not because the game lacked quality, not because UCLA is weak, but because the player who pulled casual fans in is no longer there. The excuses come fast. The college football playoff, the NFL, NHL games, and to be fair, those events do pull attention, but that explanation falls apart the moment you look closer. All of those competing leagues existed during Caitlin Clark's run too. The NFL was still dominating Sundays in 2024. College football still owned Saturdays. Hockey was still on national TV. None of that stopped women's college basketball from finding a massive audience when Clark was on the floor. The difference was never competition for attention. The difference was that one player was powerful enough to make people care about a sport they had been ignoring for years. And the second she graduated, the entire ecosystem snapped right back to where it was in 2022. Juju Watkins at USC was positioned as the next torch carrier, then the injury hit. Paige Bueckers was expected to extend the momentum after being drafted, but she is now in the WNBA. That shift matters, and we will get to why, because it exposes how the industry actually treats women's basketball once the spotlight moves on. Kim Mulkey is standing right in the middle of that reality. This is not a shot at her or her program. It is a clear snapshot of the moment. What is being acknowledged now is what most people quietly knew the whole time. A huge chunk of the audience did not care about women's college basketball until Caitlin Clark made it impossible to look away. The numbers do not lie. In 2022, before Clark's breakout junior season, the average women's college basketball game drew roughly 400,000 viewers. By her senior year in 2024, Iowa's regular season games were pulling between 2 and 3 million. But here's the part that rarely gets said. When Iowa was not playing, other programs did not see the same jump. Viewership across the rest of the sport stayed mostly flat. People were not tuning in for women's college basketball as a product. They were tuning in for Caitlin Clark as a phenomenon, and the media understood that perfectly. Coverage did not explode because executives suddenly discovered the quality of the game. It exploded because Clark delivered clicks, views, and engagement. The coverage created the illusion that the sport itself had crossed into the mainstream, when in reality, one player had. Meanwhile, Dawn Staley has South Carolina undefeated and ranked #1. Kim Mulkey has LSU competing at the highest level. Paige Bueckers is beginning her WNBA career with the Minnesota Lynx. Flau'jae Johnson is one of the most marketable players in college basketball. The answer to why attention has dipped is simple. No, people are not really watching at the same level. South Carolina's games are averaging around 600,000 viewers, which is solid until you remember Iowa was tripling that number with Clark. LSU's numbers look similar. The interest drop is real, and it has nothing to do with quality. South Carolina is dominant. LSU is talented and entertaining. Dominance and talent were never what drove the Clark-era ratings. Star power did, and it was one specific star. For anyone who claimed Clark was just the face of a rising tide that would lift everything, the tide is gone. The boats are stuck in the sand, and coaches like Cori are left wondering how the water vanished so fast. That logo situation says everything. It is the perfect metaphor for how the industry approaches women's basketball. Minimal effort, maximum extraction. Nike gave Paige Bueckers a signature logo, and it is literally a bucket. Not a stylized hoop, not a creative reflection of her game. Just a paint bucket, the kind you grab from Home Depot for weekend chores. This matters because it exposes the real problem sitting underneath all of this. Nike did not sign Paige Bueckers to a signature deal because they believed in her long-term market power. They did it because they had to respond to the Caitlin Clark effect. When Clark signed with Nike in 2024 on a reported 8-year deal worth multiple millions, the pressure hit immediately. Nike suddenly needed more women's basketball players under contract to prove they were serious about supporting the sport. So they signed Bueckers, rolled out a shoe line, and rushed out a logo that looks like it was put together in a single afternoon.
Yikes. This logo, let's get to it. This logo, to me, is proof that Nike just doesn't care. This is the logo that you get when you just don't want to put in any effort, you don't want to think at all, you don't want to put in any brain power. This is what the kids would call slop. Slop. Paige Bueckers, Paige bucket. This literally looks like a bucket. Well, like a sand bucket. This looks like you go to Home Depot, you go to the garbage section, they got those silver Barons bucket. It looks like one of those. This looks like a tin garbage can for her logo. Oh, goodness.
When you compare that treatment to male athletes, the difference is impossible to ignore. LeBron James has an instantly recognizable logo. Michael Jordan's silhouette is one of the most powerful symbols in all of sports. Even male players without superstar status get branding that feels intentional and carefully built. Paige Bueckers got a bucket. That choice says everything. It signals that Nike is not convinced she will consistently move product. This is not belief. It is box checking. Now look at Unrivaled, the new 3-on-3 women's basketball league launching in January 2025 and being marketed as the future of the game. On paper, it sounds massive. $30 million in funding, 30 players signed to 6-figure contracts. Big promises about changing how women's basketball is consumed. Paige Bueckers is being pushed as one of the league's main faces. Here is where the plan starts to wobble. Unrivaled does not have Caitlin Clark. It does not have Sabrina Ionescu. It does not have Aja Wilson. It does not have Angel Reese. Cameron Brink is out while recovering from an ACL injury. The players who actually drive ratings, social engagement, and mainstream attention are missing. That leaves Unrivaled trying to manufacture hype around players who are talented, but who have not proven they can carry a league's viewership by themselves. The timing makes it worse. 7 days before the first game, there is no real buzz, no viral push, no sustained mainstream coverage. For a league that claims it will redefine women's basketball, the quiet surrounding its launch is impossible to ignore. Sports outlets that were running daily WNBA segments just 6 months ago are barely acknowledging Unrivaled at all. Without star power to pull in casual fans, the industry has no real incentive to pay attention, and that silence tells the story better than any headline ever could. This is the reality. Unrivaled tips off in 7 days, and the average sports fan has no idea it exists. Put that next to how the Big Three launched back in 2017. Love it or hate it, people knew it was coming. Ice Cube was everywhere. Former NBA players were involved. Media coverage was steady, celebrities showed up, and there was real curiosity about whether the idea would actually work. Unrivaled has none of that momentum, and it is not because the concept itself is flawed. 3-on-3 basketball is fun to watch. The format is fast. The production will likely look polished. The players are clearly talented. The mistake was deeper than presentation. The league assumed that the attention spike during the Caitlin Clark era meant fans were suddenly loyal to women's basketball in any form, with any roster, in any setting. That assumption is being stress-tested right now, and the early signs are not encouraging. Social media engagement around Unrivaled is quiet. Ticket sales have not been released, which usually signals underwhelming demand. Most telling of all, the same sports media machine that amplified every WNBA storyline months ago has already shifted focus elsewhere. This is not about one coach being frustrated with empty press rooms. It is not just about a lazy logo or one startup league struggling to find traction. All of this connects to a larger misunderstanding about what actually happened during the Caitlin Clark era and what it truly meant for the sport. The story sold to the public in 2023 and 2024 was that women's basketball had finally broken through. Years of investment, development, and advocacy were said to have reached a tipping point. The sport itself was framed as permanently mainstream. Caitlin Clark was described as the spark, not the engine. The face of the movement, not the movement itself. But now, with Clark in the WNBA, the gaps in that narrative are impossible to miss. What really happened was simpler and more uncomfortable. One generational talent with rare skill, real charisma, and perfect cultural timing grabbed the attention of casual sports fans who otherwise had no interest in women's basketball at all.
I think that you have to have a broader view of growing the game if you're going to really appreciate it, as you referred to. The reality is, Caitlin Clark has risen a level of fan base that has broadened it, has deepened it, that we are all benefiting from. Close said per a December 9th Instagram post from Stephen Smith's show. Let's build each other up. I think there's such a thing in that case. There's no bad publicity or exposure. No bad publicity. I mean, if you guys aren't mad at the bad publicity, then I'll cover you. I can't say I'd be too fake.
She did not open a door that stayed open. She was the door. And when Caitlin Clark walked through it into the WNBA, it closed right behind her. The evidence is already sitting there, plain as day. Women's college basketball viewership in 2025 is down roughly 70% from the peak of the Clark era. Iowa, the program she dragged into national relevance, is averaging around 800,000 viewers this season after pulling close to 3 million last year. Other top programs did not inherit that audience. They lost it. Fans did not transfer their loyalty to the sport itself. They followed Clark to wherever she went next. The same pattern is showing up in the WNBA. The Indiana Fever, Clark's team, averaged about 1.2 million viewers per game in 2024, the highest number the league has ever seen. But outside of that, the bump was minimal. The Las Vegas Aces, despite winning back-to-back championships, averaged roughly 600,000 viewers. The New York Liberty, playing in the biggest media market in the country, averaged about 550,000. The rising tide only lifted one boat, the one Caitlin Clark was standing on. This creates a serious problem for everyone invested in women's basketball as a business. For the last 2 years, The entire growth strategy has been built on the idea that Clark's popularity would turn into long-term interest in the sport as a whole. That belief shaped decisions at every level. The WNBA locked in a new media rights deal worth around $200 million per year, starting in 2026, a massive jump from the previous $50 million annually. That deal was negotiated at the height of Clark mania, when executives believed the ratings surge was here to stay. But that assumption is now being tested. What happens if the 2025 WNBA season begins and non-fever games slide back to 300,000 viewers? What happens if Unrivaled launches and the audience does not show up? What happens if women's college basketball continues to struggle for coverage because there is no transcendent star to center the conversation around? The answer is not complicated. The ecosystem shrinks. Sponsorships get smaller. Media attention fades. Expansion plans slow down. Players who were told the sport had finally arrived start realizing that what actually arrived was Caitlin Clark. The sport itself is still fighting for relevance. That truth may be uncomfortable, but it is not unfair. Sports are entertainment, and entertainment runs on stars. The NBA did not become a mainstream powerhouse until Magic Johnson and Larry Bird entered the picture. The WNBA's most visible era came during the Diana Taurasi and Candace Parker years. Individual sports live and die by this reality. Roger Federer retires and Wimbledon ratings drop. Tiger Woods does not play, and the PGA Tour loses a massive chunk of its audience. Expecting women's basketball to be immune to this rule is unrealistic. Every sport needs stars, and right now, the sport is waiting for the next one. The real issue is that women's basketball advocates spent 2 years pretending this was not the case. They pushed the idea that Caitlin Clark was simply uncovering quality that had always been there, instead of admitting she was an outlier with rare talent and unmatched pull. Now the consequences are playing out in real time. Cori Close is standing in an empty media room because reporters made a cold but accurate calculation. A UCLA women's basketball game, no matter how competitive, is not going to generate the clicks or engagement needed to justify coverage. Nike handing Paige Buchers a bucket logo fits the same pattern. It is not about creativity. It is about belief. They do not genuinely expect her to sell shoes at a level that warrants major design investment. Unrivaled launching with barely a whisper follows that same logic. The league signed talented players, but not the ones who consistently drive ratings and attention. None of this means women's basketball is finished. The WNBA will keep operating. Women's college basketball will continue producing skilled players. Leagues like Unrivaled may carve out smaller, dedicated audiences. But the vision of women's basketball as a fully mainstream, self-sustaining industry that competes with men's sports for attention and revenue is paused until the next Caitlin Clark arrives. And that wait could be long. Generational talents are rare. The WNBA has existed for nearly 3 decades and has produced only a handful of players who truly moved casual fans. Women's college basketball has an even more inconsistent history in that regard. Betting on another Clark-level star appearing in the near future is a risky strategy. So what should the industry do now? First, stop pretending. Stop acting like women's basketball has reached parity with men's basketball in mainstream appeal. It has not, and insisting otherwise only sets players, leagues, and fans up for frustration. Second, focus investment on player development and smart marketing for athletes who actually show star potential. Build real narratives. Develop personalities. Accept the reality of where the sport is instead of selling a version of it that the numbers do not support. Juju Watkins, when healthy, has that kind of upside. Hannah Hidalgo at Notre Dame has shown real flashes too, but raw talent is not enough. They need structure, development, and real backing, not just loud hype and short attention spans. Star potential has to be nurtured, not rushed or forced into a role before it is ready. The next step is accepting reality. Growth is going to be slower and messier than the Caitlin Clark era made it seem. The WNBA's new media deal is a win, but it also raises expectations. If the league cannot deliver ratings that justify that investment, the next round of negotiations will be unforgiving. That is how this business works. It is better to set realistic targets and beat them than to sell a dream that cannot be sustained. Overpromising creates backlash, and under-delivering erodes trust. That lesson is already unfolding in real time. Another hard truth is this: star-driven growth is not a flaw. It is the blueprint for every successful sport. Instead of resenting the fact that Caitlin Clark was the reason people tuned in, the industry should embrace it and learn from it. Build around what worked. Identify the next player who can capture that same lightning and fully commit to supporting them. Trying to spread attention evenly across an entire league before the demand exists does not work. Right now, women's basketball is learning that mainstream appeal cannot be manufactured. Casual fans cannot be pressured into caring through messaging, advocacy, or appeals to fairness. They care when something pulls them in. For 2 years, Caitlin Clark did exactly that. She made people pay attention to a sport they had ignored for decades. Once she left, the illusion cracked. What looked like a foundation was really one person holding everything up. Cori Close asked where the media went. The answer is simple. They went wherever the compelling story is. Right now, that is not women's college basketball. It is not Unrivaled. And outside of Indiana, it is barely the WNBA. That is not a shot at the athletes or the level of play. It is the reality of sports as entertainment. So the real question is not about fairness, it is about honesty. Is it realistic to expect sustained mainstream interest without a transcendent star? And for those demanding constant coverage, are they actually watching? Are they showing up? Are they buying tickets? This is where the conversation really ends. Not with outrage, not with denial, but with clarity. Women's basketball did not fail. The media did not suddenly turn evil. Fans did not betray the sport. What happened is simpler and harder to accept. One player carried the weight of an entire ecosystem, and when she moved on, the gap was exposed. Caitlin Clark was not proof that women's basketball had permanently arrived. She was proof of what happens when star power, timing, and talent collide. That does not diminish the athletes playing today. It just explains the reality they are operating in. The sport is not dying, it is recalibrating. The hype bubble burst, and what remains is the real work. Developing stars, building stories people actually want to follow, accepting that growth is not linear and that attention has to be earned, not demanded. If another generational talent emerges, the spotlight will come back fast. If not, the game will continue, just without the noise. That is not disrespect. That is how sports have always worked. So the next time empty press rooms trend or leagues launch quietly, do not ask where the media went. Ask where the story is. Ask what actually moves people to care. And ask whether the industry is ready to build honestly instead of selling illusions. If you want real breakdowns, uncomfortable truths, and coverage that follows the story instead of the script, you already know where to find it. Follow Courtside Leaks, watch closely, stay ahead. We've got every angle covered, every leak, every backstage twist, every moment they won't show you. Hit like, subscribe, drop a comment, and share this video. Stay locked in with Courtside Leaks, your home for the truth behind the WNBA headlines.